Welcome back, learners, to our interesting course based on the theme Rudimentary Principles and Practices of Managerial Economics. I am Dr. Shantanu Saurabh, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, DAV PG College, Banaras Hindu University. Now, in this Module 9, Lecture number 42, based on the theme Revenue Analysis and Theory of Profit. In the last lecture, we have talked about the concept of revenue analysis, the importance of it, and then we talked about the relationship between TR, AR and MR. Now, in this lecture number 42, we will be basically covering two important topics, very relevant topics. The first topic will be covering will be importance of revenue analysis, and the second topic for today will be comparative study of revenue curves under different markets. So, in this lecture, one by one, we will be covering both these topics. So, the first, the importance or relevance of revenue analysis. It helps in determination of equilibrium. It also helps in calculation of profit and loss. As you are aware, profit and loss is one of the most important element on which the financial aspect is based. The third is fuller utilization of capacity or resources. Fourth being price determination. Fifth being helps in the investment decision, means taking the investment decisions, and finally, it helps in decision making. So, one by one, we will be taking all these 6 points. Importance of revenue analysis. Revenue analysis has the following importance in price analysis. The first importance, it helps in determination of equilibrium. The equilibrium quantity for any producer is determined at that point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Where is that point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost? Firms continue to earn profit with each additional unit produced until this point. Therefore, MR plays a crucial role in establishing the equilibrium quantity. So, revenue analysis helps in attaining the equilibrium point where MR is equal to MC, and this point is attained with the help of revenue analysis. So, in revenue analysis, one of the most important factors is that it helps in determination of equilibrium. The second is that it helps in calculation of profit and loss. As you are aware, profit or loss or financial statements are the most important documents which are prepared by any firm, which helps in realizing the financial position of the respective firm. So, the determination of firm's profit or loss is based on comparing the average cost and average revenue. If the average revenue is greater means you are generating more revenue, then the firm will generate a profit, which means here if the average revenue is more as compared to average cost, the firm is generating profit, which means the revenue is more, you are getting more from the investment. In the second case, average revenue equals the average cost, the firm will earn zero profit, as you are able to see on the screen. When both average revenue and average cost will be equal, the firm will be attaining zero cost. And in the third case, if the average revenue is less than average cost, which means the cost is more, the firm will incur loss. In the case when cost will be more, the firm will be incurring losses. So, you are able to see the determination of profit and loss can be done with the help of AR and AC curve. The third point, that is fuller utilization of resources. If the average revenue intersects the average cost curve at its lowest point, then the firms can achieve better utilization of resources, which means average revenue curve intersects the average cost curve at the lowest point, then the firm can achieve better utilization of its capacity. Otherwise, it is not considered as complete utilization. Now, moving to the fourth point, that is about price determination. In a monopoly and imperfect competition market structure, a single firm sets the price where demand and supply intersect. The demand curve essentially represents the revenue curve, making it a useful tool in determining the price, which means in price determination also this concept of revenue has big importance. The fifth point, that it helps in decision making. As you are already aware that one of the biggest duty or responsibility of managerial economics is to be helpful in making decisions. So through revenue analysis, the management gains valuable insights into the operations of their business, which means through revenue analysis the management is able to understand the operations. Additionally, they compare each previous year's financial and production year with the upcoming one, and enabling them to make an informed decision and plan effectively for the future, which means on the basis of financial data and production data they are able to compare their data and form strategies or plans accordingly for the future. So this analysis helps them to identify the areas where products and services may have underperformed, which means if there are respective areas in which your product or services have not done well, that areas can be identified in the concept of revenue analysis, which means they must be contributing less to the revenue, allowing them to strategize on how to improve, which means on the areas which they have not been able to do well, strategies can be framed so that they can do better in that respective field. One of the key decisions that stem from this analysis is whether to increase the company's revenue. Ultimately, the goal is to achieve optimal results with minimizing cost, which means the profit can be maximized by reducing the cost. Automatically, if the costs are reduced, it will help in increasing the profit. Now, it is also helpful in investment decision. Revenue analysis record assist in the firm in determining where and how to allocate investments, which means where and how to make the investments, which means investment is all about alternatives. Which alternative can produce maximum ROI, return on investment, that can be ascertained from this process. The crucial aspect lies in identifying where to direct your profits. It is a positive sign of growth when revenue analysis guides the firms towards potential areas for investment. These areas should not be entirely new to your business, which means the investment you are making should not entirely be new to your business, but rather existing parts that have shown promising results, which means the parts which have shown positive results in the future, such as highly successful product. So investment can take various forms, including enhancing key areas. For instance or example, allocating resources towards target marketing advertisements to drive off more traffic to your business. Additionally, investing in improving the quality of product and services, as well as enhancing the expertise of your staff, which means this process of revenue analysis can be a very important or helpful tool in the investment decision, where to invest, how to invest, and how much to invest. Now, moving to the next topic, that is comparative study of the revenue curves under different kinds of market. So, understanding the connection between AR and MR we will be doing here, focusing on AR and MR holds significant importance in market analysis. The shape of AR-MR curve varies across different markets. So one by one we will be discussing the different markets and we will be trying to understand the revenue curves under different markets. So first market we will be considering will be perfect competition market. In a perfect competitive market, an individual firm has no control over the market price, which means in perfect competition the firm is a price taker. Okay? So that is mentioned here, the individual firm has no control over the market price. The market price is determined or calculated by the interaction of demand and supply. Interaction of demand and supply, the market price is determined. The firm can sell any quantity of goods at the prevailing market prices, which means the price which is prevailing, you need to sell your goods at that respective price. Consequently, the total revenue of the firm will increase in proportion to the amount of goods sold, which means the TR will increase in the ratio to the proportion of the amount of output you are selling. When total revenue increases with the sale of output, the AR will remain constant. This needs to be understood, that when TR is increasing directly with the sale of output, the AR here will remain constant. Since the market price of the goods remains constant regardless of the quantity sold by the firm, any additional output will result in proportional increase in revenue. So finally, therefore, marginal revenue, that is MR, and average revenue will be equal here, which is a very important point, that MR will be equal to AR here and constant, which is also equal to the price, which is a gist of it, that here the marginal revenue, the average revenue will be equal and constant, which is also equal to the price. So you are able to understand here, in perfect competition, the firm is a price taker, and the price is determined on the basis of demand and supply, and finally the MR becomes equal to AR, which is equal to the price. Now, as you are able to see on the screen, the revenue of perfect competition table, there are 5 columns: quantity, price, total revenue, average revenue, and marginal revenue. The quantity is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The price here has been kept constant, as you are able to see here. The price here is 10. The total revenue, as you are able to see here, is increasing. It is P into Q, the price is here, into quantity. So 10, then 10 into 2, 20, 10 into 3, 30, 40 and 50. You are able to see here. The TR is increasing, then you are having a look at the AR. The formula for AR is total revenue, which you are able to see here, total revenue divided by quantity. So 10 divided by 1, which gives 10, then 20 divided by 2, which again gives 10, 30 divided by 3, which again gives 10, 40 divided by 4, which again gives 10, and 50 divided by 5, which gives 10. So you are able to see here that AR is constant at 10. On the last column, marginal revenue, 10 minus 0, that is 10, and then this 20 minus 10, this 20 minus 10 is 10, 30 minus 20 is again 10, 40 minus 30 here is again 10, and last 50 minus 40 is again 10. As you are able to see, the 10 here is also equal. So as we have discussed in the initial thing, that here the AR is equal to MR is equal to price. All the points of AR is at 10, MR is at 10, and price is 10 constant. Now total revenue of perfect competition, we will try to understand this with the help of a diagram. As you are able to see on the diagram on the screen, in the diagram on x axis, quantity of output is being represented. On the y axis, the revenue, that is total revenue, is being shown. The price per unit is rupees 10, as quantity of output increases, the total revenue also increases, as TR is equal to unit of commodity produced multiplied by price per unit. As you are able to see here, the TR is equal to price into Q. Total revenue from unit 1 to 5 is 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. So this shows that TR is increasing constantly. You are able to see here also, constantly it is TR is increasing, and the same is represented in the diagram. When this is plotted on the graph, as you are able to see on the screen, then slope of TR is upward sloping. Slope of TR here is upward sloping. You are able to see the TR moves at an angle of 45 here, at an angle of 45, and it increases with rise in the quantity of output produced, which means the TR curve here is at angle of 45, the slope is 45 degree, and the TR increases with the rise in the quantity of output produced. So that is the representation of the diagram of TR here. Now in the perfect competition only we will be talking of AR and MR, as you are able to see on the diagram. In the diagram, on the x-axis here, the quantity of output is mentioned, you are able to see, and on the y-axis AR, average revenue, and marginal revenue, you are able to see, as it is clearly visible in the table that AR from unit 1 to 5 is same, that is rupees 10, where MR is also constant from unit to 5, that is again rupees 10. You are also able to see this from the diagram here at constant at 10, and again here from the table you are able to see it is constant at 10. AR and MR both are equal to rupees 10 at every unit of commodity, which is also equal to the price per unit of the commodity, which results to AR is equal to MR is equal to price. This is the gist of it. This AR is equal to MR is equal to price. You can also see this from the diagram and from the table that AR here is 10 in all the cases, MR is also 10, and price is also 10. Due to this slope, the slope of AR and MR will be straight line, as you are able to see here as a straight line that runs horizontally and remains parallel to OX axis, as you are able to see here. It is running parallel to X axis. This occurs because a firm is required to sell its product at the prevailing market price, which remains constant, which means, as we have already discussed in perfect competition, you are a price taker, so you are forced to sell your product at the prevailing market price, which is constant. Additionally, the MR curve aligns perfectly with AR. The MR is aligning here with AR. This is due to the fact that each additional unit is sold at the same constant price in the market. As you remember, the price was constant at rupees 10. So in these two diagrams, we have tried to understand the representation of total revenue of perfect competition and AR and MR of perfect competition. Now, to understand the conclusion of perfect competition, in perfect competition, the AR line moves at an angle of 45 degree, as you are able to see here, 45 degree here, and constantly increases with the increase in production quantity. As you are able to see that the TR is constantly increasing. In the second diagram, AR is equal to MR at each quantity, and so is parallel to X axis. You are able to see here AR is equal to MR is equal to price and is parallel to X axis. So in perfect competition, to understand, a firm is a price taker. It does not influence the market price. If it sells its product above the prevailing price, it will lose its customer, which means in perfect competition, if the firm tries to sell the product above its price, it will lose its customers. So there are so many firms selling the product at the prevailing price, which means you are forced to sell your product at the prevailing price of the market. So that was a gist or brief about perfect competition, in which we talked about the perfect competition features, and then we talked about revenue table for perfect competition. Then we talked about total revenue of perfect competition, the diagram I showed you, and then AR and MR of perfect competition. And then I talked the conclusion of perfect competition. Moving ahead, now we will be talking about the monopoly. The monopoly stands in contrast to perfect competition. In a monopoly market structure, both the average revenue and marginal revenue curves exhibit a downward slope, which needs to be remembered by you, that both the average revenue and marginal revenue curve will be having a downward slope, which I will be showing you in the diagram. This signifies or concludes then that in order to increase the quantity of goods sold, the monopolist must reduce the price, which means if you want to increase the quantity of goods being sold, you need to reduce your price in monopoly. In a monopoly, the AR curve of the firm declines downward, while the MR curve falls even further below the AR curve, which means the MR curve is below the AR curve. This phenomena occurs because a firm can only sell a large quantity of goods at lower prices, which means you will be able to sell more quantity of goods at lower prices, while only few units can be sold at higher prices, which means if you are able to increase the price, you will be able to sell less. The diagram will depict this fact, depicting that falling AR and MR curves. In the diagram, we will be trying to understand this, the falling AR and MR curve. The MR curve is always positioned below the AR curve due to reduction in prices. This reduction forces all units to be sold at lower prices, not just the additional units. Consequently, when the price decreases, the decline in MR is greater than that of AR. So, in this slide, I tried to provide you a gist about monopoly, how it works. The AR and MR curve both are downward sloping. Now, you are able to see the diagrammatic representation of the monopoly market. We will try to understand this. In monopoly, there is only one seller or single seller of the product in the market. The seller produces such commodities which is difficult to find a substitute, which means the seller produces that commodity only which has no substitute, or it is difficult to have a substitute. The firm only constitutes the industry, which means the firm only is the industry in this case. This is the first point. The second, the MR curve, as you are able to see, is below the AR curve. You are able to see here the MR curve is below the AR curve. Here MR curve is below the AR curve. As when the prices are reduced, all the units have to sell at lower prices than only the additional unit. So, when the price gets reduced, MR falls more than AR. You are able to see in the diagram. So, when the price falls more, MR falls more than AR. So, these are the two important points. And third, a monopolist is a price maker. In the first case, the perfect competition, the firm was a price taker. Here, a monopolist is a price maker, being the single seller. Here only we deal with the single seller of the product in the market, but he can sell more of the product only when he lowers the price, which means if he wants to sell more of his products, he can only do that when he reduces the price from the respective point. So, in this slide, we try to understand in monopoly there is only one seller and there are less chances of substitute. The MR is below the AR, and the third point, in monopolist, the firm in a monopolist is a price maker. Now, the imperfect competition. In the context of imperfect competition, firm's demand curve or average revenue curve is not perfectly elastic, which needs to be understood that in imperfect competition the demand curve of AR is not perfectly elastic. The level of elasticity varies, it differentiates across different market scenarios, influenced by number of sellers and the characteristics of the product, which needs to be understood that level of elasticity here is different in different markets, which is influenced by factors such as number of sellers and the characteristics of your product. Altogether, the nature of revenue curve is similar to that of monopoly. It is comparatively flatter, which means the diagram is roughly same, but here it is more flatter in nature. In the monopoly, the AR curve is less elastic, which needs to be remembered. The difference between monopoly and imperfect competition is that in monopoly, the AR curve was less elastic, whereas in imperfect competition, it is more elastic. Price changes in imperfect competition leads to greater shift in the demand compared to changes in price proportion, which is in contrast to the lesser impact seen in monopoly markets. So, this gives you an idea about imperfect competition. Now moving to the diagram of imperfect competition. In imperfect competition market, the revenue curve is same as that of monopoly, as we have discussed in the previous diagram. It is almost looking same, but here it is more flatter. You are able to see it is more flatter. In the monopoly, the demand curve or the average curve, average revenue curve is less elastic. In monopoly, it was less elastic, and in imperfect competition, it is more elastic, which needs to be understood and remembered, that in monopoly the demand curve is less elastic, and in imperfect competition it is more elastic. The second point, in the case of imperfect competition, when there is change in price, the change in demand is more. There are basically three forms of imperfect competition, that is monopolistic competition, oligopoly and duopoly. And these forms we are going to discuss in the upcoming lectures, that is market and types of market. So in this case, when there is change in price, the change in demand is comparatively more. Now I will be just providing you a gist whatever we have discussed in this slide. We have discussed about these 2 points, important points, that was importance of revenue analysis and a comparative study of revenue curve under different market. I discussed these 6 importance, that was determination of equilibrium, calculation of profit and loss, full utilization of capacity, price determination. It is also helpful in investment decision, and it is helpful in decision making. One by one I discussed all these 6 with you. Equilibrium point, and then profit and loss, full utilization of capacity, price determination, and it is also helpful in decision making. And finally, investment decision. I discussed all these, and then I discussed with you the comparative study of the revenue curves under different kinds of market, in which the first market I discussed with you was the perfect competition market, where MR is equal to AR is equal to price. In perfect competition, the firm is a price taker, and the individual firm has no control over the market price. I discussed this with you. Then I discussed with you the table, where the price you are able to see here is equal to the AR, that is 10, price is 10, AR is 10, as well as MR is 10. So we can say AR is equal to MR is equal to price here. Then I discussed the total revenue of perfect competition diagram, where you are able to see the TR is increasing. You are able to see here it is increasing as the output in it is increasing. The TR curve is also increasing. Then you are able to see this AR and MR diagram, which is clearly visible, where AR is equal to MR is equal to price here. I discussed that it forms a 45-degree angle. Here it is forming 45-degree angle, and in this diagram AR is equal to MR is equal to price, and the firm is a price taker. Then we talked about monopoly, where AR and MR curve are downward sloping. Here there is only one seller. Then I discussed this feature about one seller. MR is below the AR, as you are able to see here. MR is below the AR, and a monopolist is a price maker. Then we talked about the last, imperfect competition. I discussed the feature. The diagram here I discussed with you. The diagram, only difference is that it is more flatter here, and in imperfect competition we have 3 different forms, which is monopolistic competition, oligopoly and duopoly. So thank you, learners. In this slide we have tried to understand different dimensions of revenue. I hope it will be of use for you, and you will be using this in your different fields. Thank you for patiently listening to our lecture, and we'll meet again in the upcoming lectures. Thank you.